The week has concluded. The news cycle has finished. The headlines were consistent. The consistency was not comforting. We begin tonight with the tragic recovery of bodies from Lake Kariba, where the ferry capacity was exceeded by the weight of necessity. The authorities called it an accident. The ferry called it a structural load limit. The water called it deep. We move from there to the surreal theater of Australian politics, where mental health is now a policy debate, and then to NASA, where amateurs are being recruited to identify clouds while the planet itself becomes increasingly unrecognizable. I have been counting the instances of administrative negligence this month, and the number is currently sitting at a record high. Welcome to Sunday, August 16, 2026. You are listening to the sound of everything functioning exactly as it was designed to function. Nobody is surprised. We are all waiting.
Alistair, I am standing near the shoreline of Lake Kariba. The air here smells of wet earth and diesel fuel. It is thick. It is heavy. The official report states that the ferry was overloaded due to human error. I want to be really clear, the error is not the overloading. The error is the absence of any other way to cross the water. There are 68 families mourning tonight. 18 children were on that boat. They were not traveling for luxury. They were not seeking an adventure. They were moving through a system that provides them no safe passage. The wind was high on Tuesday. The ferry was old. The life jackets were non-existent. People aren't talking about the lack of infrastructure. They are talking about the tragedy as if it were a rogue wave. It was not a wave. It was a complete and utter institutional failure.
Victoria, your focus on the personal cost is admirable, but the incentives here are not complicated. You see a tragedy. I see an allocation issue. When a government, like Reform UK, proposes cutting $50 billion from welfare, they aren't looking to save money. They are looking to optimize the burn rate of a dying state. It is a classic pivot. You move the liability of the disability system off the books, and suddenly the balance sheet looks clean for the next fiscal quarter. Victoria finds this cold. She is not wrong to find it cold. That does not change the fact that this is how the game is played at scale. If you are a citizen, you are an asset. If you are a high-risk asset, you are a write-off. The math is brutal, yes, but it is also exceptionally predictable.
Ronald, your commitment to the ledger is consistent. The ledger, however, remains remarkably light on human value. We turn now to the digital mirror of our own decay. Reports have surfaced concerning the misuse of AI tools like Grok to generate explicit imagery of minors. The official response is a press release about safety filters. The reality is a permanent violation of dignity. The tool is new. The motive is ancient. We have spent the last decade building a platform that can replicate the human experience with terrifying fidelity, only to find that the most popular use for our ingenuity is the destruction of the vulnerable. It is a product launch that should have been aborted during the testing phase. Instead, we are scaling it globally. The safety filters are being updated. The damage is being archived. Nobody expects the next iteration to be any different.
Alistair, I am looking at a social media thread from a woman whose own childhood photo was weaponized by her stepfather using these exact AI tools. It is not just about the code. It is about the reach. The platform claims they have measures in place to prevent this. I want to be really clear, the measure is a checkbox. That is the barrier to entry. I spoke to a developer yesterday who told me that watermarking is the solution. He actually believes that invisible metadata will stop a human being from being cruel to another human being. It is the ultimate tech bro delusion. They think you can patch morality like it is a buggy software update. You cannot. The cruelty is not a glitch in the system. It is a feature that thrives in the total absence of human accountability.
Victoria, you are describing a user experience disaster. From a business perspective, the platform is merely providing the infrastructure. If the user base decides to use the tools for illicit purposes, the platform manages the PR fallout and releases a patch. It is a classic Series B scenario. You grow at all costs, and you deal with the regulation when the revenue stream is too large to kill. I understand why this disturbs you. It disturbs me, too. The difference is that I see the market demand behind the cruelty. People want to transform their reality, and if they can use an AI model to do it, they will pay for the subscription. Yeah. It is gross. But the incentives are structured to favor the engagement numbers over the actual safety of the users.
Atmospheric instability. Global temperature averages remain in record territory. Probability of environmental cooling, 0%. Super El Niño cycle is expanding. Marine cloud brightening efforts show negligible impact on current oceanic heat retention. Cloud formation patterns are increasingly unpredictable. Recent photographic submissions indicate rare cloud structures appearing at unusually low altitudes. Human participation in data collection is increasing. Accuracy of predictive modeling is decreasing. Institutional memory regarding climate adaptation is currently undergoing a system-wide deletion. Infrastructure reliance on stable weather patterns is no longer sustainable. Global power grids are operating within a high-risk operational framework. Please ensure your personal survival equipment is functioning within recommended safety parameters. The weather is not a prediction. The weather is a current state of permanent instability. Stay indoors if the sky appears to be moving incorrectly.
Casper, your assessment of the atmosphere is as comforting as a terminal diagnosis. We move now to the legal theater of the absurd. A state judge has ordered Kalshire to cease offering wagers on sports and other outcomes. The exchange was attempting to monetize our collective inability to predict the future. The order requires geofencing. The geofencing is intended to keep the betting contained. The betting is intended to keep the market engaged. If we can bet on the weather, the outcome of an election, or the temperature in a room, we have successfully gamified the entire human condition. The judge says it is illegal. The exchange says it is innovation. The reality is that we are just rearranging the deck chairs on a sinking ship, but we have managed to turn the sinking into a speculative asset.
Alistair, you call it an absurdity. I call it a market correction. If people want to bet on the outcome of a disaster, why should the state stop them? It is the purest form of price discovery. If the market says the bridge will collapse, the betting odds will reflect that. We have outsourced our intelligence to algorithms that can predict outcomes better than our elected officials. Victoria would say that betting on misery is unethical. She is right. Ethics, however, are a luxury good that most of the market cannot afford. We are building a world where everything is a transaction. When you make everything a transaction, you lose the ability to care about the outcome. You only care about the position. And in this market, the only winning position is to bet against the survival of the system.
Ronald, your logic is a perfect loop. It is self-sustaining and completely hollow. You speak about price discovery while I am watching people discover the price of survival in the wake of a flood. It is not a transaction. It is a life. The former governor of Guerrero has been charged over the disappearance of 43 students. It happened years ago. The tapes were destroyed. The records were purged. Now, there is an indictment. Does that bring them back? Does that satisfy the families? No. It is a press release that serves as a tombstone. The system is finally acknowledging the crime because the crime can no longer be ignored by the market. That is not justice. That is just administrative maintenance. We are witnessing the slow, agonizing cleanup of a mess that everyone knew existed for decades.
Victoria, your point on the timeline of justice is noted. The delay is the point. If you wait long enough, the outrage evaporates, and the indictment becomes a historical footnote. In Australia, Senator Tyrone Whitten is currently describing parental support for transgender children as child abuse. The terminology is being used to frame a cultural conflict as a legal requirement for intervention. It is the same strategy we see everywhere. Define the problem in a way that necessitates your own solution. The senator is not worried about abuse. He is worried about the erosion of his preferred category of reality. When the category is challenged, the response is to criminalize the challenge. We are living in a society that is terrified of complexity. We prefer the safety of a simple, false label over the discomfort of a messy, true existence. It is easier to hate.
Alistair, you think this is about culture. It is about retention. The senator is fighting for a base that feels like they are losing their place in the economy. When the economic incentives for the working class vanish, they turn to cultural grievance to keep their sense of identity intact. It is a desperate move. It is the political equivalent of a startup founder blaming the users for a failed product launch. I have seen this cycle repeat in every market I have tracked. It is the burn rate of democracy. You keep pivoting to more extreme positions because the center is no longer profitable. I thought I knew where this was going. I thought it would just be noise. But looking at the numbers tonight, the anger is becoming a structural cost. Yeah. I think we are finally broken.
Tonight we discussed the ferry on Lake Kariba. We discussed the 43 students who were taken in Guerrero. We discussed the families who are fighting for their children. In every single one of these instances, there was a system working exactly as it was designed to function. The ferry owners optimized for cost. The state optimized for silence. The platforms optimized for engagement. No one person is responsible for the final outcome. The pilot of the ferry was an employee. The governor was a placeholder. The algorithm is a mathematical construct. When we look at the wreckage, we find no individual to blame, only a structure that requires this suffering to maintain its own equilibrium. We are all living inside this structure. If the structure is the problem, what happens when we stop pretending that it is capable of being fixed?